So you want to learn the language fast, huh? Something that takes people years to master, you want to do it in half a year? Interesting. Ambitious. So I guess you're pretty hardworking and you love studying all day and you will be able to dedicate hours per day to this new hobby of language learning of yours? No? Well, then you're probably gonna fail at this. Either you accept right now that you're not gonna make it in that time frame, or you sit on your ass and get to work. Anyway, these tips are for people who are realistic and that know that to master a language it takes years, but you still want to make progress as fast as possible. Therefore, first of all, concentrate on the German sentence structure. Sentence structure is the most important thing to make yourself understood to others so that your sentence does not sound like a question or something weird. Just find out how a German sentence is composed and learn that. For instance, Ich habe Hunger means I am hungry. Literally, I have hunger. Dann lass uns was essen gehen. So, let us eat something. That kind of thing. Learn how the structure is, how is it different from English or from your native language, and try to imagine sentences like that in your head. It really helps even if you just know a few words and you're all passive and not really using the language yet, just to play with the language in your head. Next thing, in terms of vocabulary, would be to concentrate on the nouns mostly and the verbs, especially on everything that is irregular, because you have to learn it by heart and some effort has to go into this. There are a lot of irregularities about the German language, but they're also all kind of unique and you can just learn them by heart because they are so weird. And there are also some really interesting rules about whether a noun, for instance, is feminine, masculine, or neutral. For instance, everything that ends on tion, Konstitution, Kondition, Information, it's always female. So there are many rules like that and you can find them in every average grammar book. I highly recommend to get a grammar book and learn from that strict grammar advice book, not just from your app or from your just textbook that you have, just a dedicated book with the German grammar. I have some for French here because obviously I am German. I know the German grammar. We had a dedicated subject in school, just German grammar, not just German. So yeah, I don't really need that, but you do. So now the tenses you have to focus on. There are so many tenses in German and you only need two of them. Present and perfect. Present is like ich laufe is present. Ich laufe, du läufst, er, sie, es läuft, and so on. We don't need that. From ich laufe to perfect is ich bin gelaufen. And you can also build this tense with another modal verb, which is haben, have. So it is either to be, sein, or haben, have. And you will use those to create the perfect tense. And everybody uses this in their everyday language, as in ich habe gegessen, ich bin Auto gefahren, ich bin angekommen, ich habe eingekauft, ich habe Essen gekocht, and so on. Just every everyday thing that you just finished, you will express it with habe, I have, I just did this, I'm done with it now, or bin. The average German just uses that, and some over dramatic people use Plusquamperfekt even for things that just happened yesterday, although it is a tense that is meant only to be used for the faraway past. So if you want to be a little language nerd, correct them. Do it for me and say that I put you up to it. And then the present tense, you can also use that one to express the future. You don't really need Futur 1 and Futur 2, Future 1 and Future 2. You don't really need those. I personally rarely ever use them. It's just like, when do I ever say I will do something? No. I mean, you have to know those. It's important to know all the tenses, but you will grow into that in your language journey. Over time, you don't really need to worry about that as a beginner when you want to make progress fast, okay? If you want to make progress right here and now, you can just focus on these two, present and perfect. And let me give you an example on how to express the future with the present. You don't say, ich werde nachher einkaufen gehen. That sounds completely stupid and outlandish. You say, Ich gehe nachher einkaufen. I go shopping later. Not I will go shopping later. Nobody says that in German. I mean, maybe some really weird people use the future. I mean, maybe German teachers say it, sound fancy. You could. But I think it's more like a strong expression, as in, das werde ich mir nicht gefallen lassen. I will not put up with this. You will not do that to me. You will not. There's also this idiom, das werden wir noch sehen. We will see about that. Yeah, I can't even come up with a sentence that sounds natural and includes a future tense. Oh, and the same goes for the past tense, as in Präteritum. You would use that more often than future. I give it that. You would use it more often than the future one and future, let alone the future two tense that nobody ever uses. Let me think of an example. For instance, instead of saying, ich habe gegessen, you would say, ich aß. I ate. I just ate. You can say that in English. I just ate. But in German it would be, ich habe gerade gegessen. I'm not hungry, I just ate. Ich bin nicht hungrig. Ich habe gerade erst gegessen. We don't use this simple form of the past tense. It sounds like a literature version of language. It sounds odd. Don't focus too much of your energy on that. I know in a lot of German books it is introduced right in the beginning because it is simple, but it's not useful. And that's often the case if something is simple. If it sounds too simple to be good in German, it's probably not a useful word. Like all the difficult ones, those are the ones you should put your brain power behind. Oh, and then my favorite. The articles! Who does not love the Artikel? Yeah, right? You never know which one to use. So here's some relief for you. You don't need them. You don't need to know which one to use. You don't need to know the right form. You don't even need to know whether a word is male or female, at least not in everyday language. You will get to learn that when you immerse yourself in the language, when you maybe come to Germany and hear people say those words day in and day out all the time. You will get to know those words, trust me. You just need to know that the articles exist, and those and their various forms, you will learn them eventually. Don't focus on them too much. Nobody cares if you say der, die, or das Katze. And last but not least, a big thing that German learners seem to worry about is the accent, and that it's hard for Germans to understand them. And I'm gonna be honest with you on that one. Some accents are actually harder for Germans to understand than others. For example, I have a really hard time to understand Asian German accents. On the other hand, French, Arabic and Russian accents come really easy to me. Maybe that is because, you know, the set of sounds, there are more sounds that we have in common with the, for instance, the Russian language or even the French language. We have a lot of French Lehnwörter, lean words that we just borrowed from that language. We already kind of know how to pronounce them because we use them in our everyday language as well. And French was actually considered fancy in German, you know, in the olden days. And I'm personally a big fan of French lean words, Französismen, because we have so many Anglizismen, English lean words in the German language, and I just think French is such a beautiful language and we could all benefit from more French in the German language. Anyway, if you're French, we will probably understand you quite well. If you are from any Asian country, and I'm sorry I put you all in a big pot, but I really think that this is a big area with a similar set of sounds in the language, especially Chinese as a really big example, but also Koreans. I have a really hard time understanding them. So if you come from an Asian country, just keep that in mind when you learn the German language, to pay extra attention to the pronunciation. And if you're American, just don't worry, we all speak English. Now, one tip that will make you sound more natural immediately is to kind of swallow the suffixes of words, you know, like the endings of words. We call it the Endung or suffix. So if you swallow that, it will sound just more relaxed. Let me give you an example. The verb laufen means to go or walk, and you don't really say laufen. I mean, maybe in Hamburg people say that, but most people will just say laufen. Laufen, not laufen, lauf. Or take the word Kunden. It's the plural of customer, der Kunde. die Kunden. You don't really say Kunden. It hurts my tongue, okay? Kunden, der Kunde, die Kunden. So if that sounded really weird to you, you know, you have to practice it more and then you will sound like a native speaker in no time. No, just kidding. You're never gonna sound like a native speaker. You need a lot of beer for that, and also some hardcore German grammar teacher that will torture you for at least 8 years in school. Yeah, I mean, you could get Germanized at some point, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, don't get your hopes up. I mean, I've totally given up on my English and it ever improving. I know that I have a German accent. I don't give a shit. So anyway, last but not least, try to listen to a lot of German radio, German podcasts, German videos, immerse yourself in the language, expose yourself to the language. Even though if you don't understand a lot, it'll help with understanding certain parts of words that they are comprised of. It will help you to learn the different syllables and to distinguish between words and to hear breakpoints in sentences, sentence structure, and to kind of just be exposed to this new weird sounding language. And then I totally recommend, if you can, if you are at the level that you are so good that you can maybe understand a little bit of what people are saying in movies, try to find some that have subs in the original language, of course, not translated subs, and then use those to understand those movies. That's it.